It's critical to ensure that the drug itself has the proper information on it.
Our patients need to know what they are taking. They need to understand what the dosage is, how many milligrams of what they're taking, what the expiration date is.
The distribution process is critically important because we're responsible for getting the material from our facility to the patient or to the site to then dispatch to a patient.
We're always ensuring that they have drug on site, they're following the prescribed visit schedule. In the case that they need a stock replacement, we got that.
We're part of that last leg in connecting all of the pieces together. When our material arrives at the facility, the doc appointment is made. They're going to let us know what kind of material, how much material we're receiving in the storage environment. So immediately when we have that material arrive, it's actually taken to the -20. It's unpackaged there. It's stored there. The inspection happens in the -20. And any processes that need to be done, it would be transferred over a dry ice bin. So transferring from the -25 storage freezer to the -20 production freezer, that would be done over dry ice.
Customer provides label text, and then we measure the components, so the vial, bottle, carton. We create a label proof. Once that is approved, based off of the batch record, the labels are then printed, staged to production, and there's diagrams and steps in the batch record that outlines how to label each product.
The packaging is finished or labeling is finished. It will go back to the -20 production freezer over dry ice again. And then when we get the pick list for it to distribute, it'll be picked, processed, quality inspected, and then packaged in the -20 environment as well.
So packaging is very important, and labeling. The label is extremely important because this is how the client knows what they're taking, what the dosage is, what the expiration date is, and how they are supposed to take the product that they have at that point in time.
So the text does come from the customer for the most part. We can recommend some information, which would be the caution statement, dosage, batch number, protocol, but we do rely on the customer to provide the label text. Booklet label is more for anything outside of the US and has multiple countries and languages in it versus just one simple label. If it's a smaller vial or bottle or something like that, then we usually go with the booklets just to fit all the text, and they'll have multiple pages. There are different types of label stock. We have the opaque Kimdor label stock, which has a black backing that's typically used for room temperature. And then we have a polypropylene label stock, which is actually see-through, but it's thinner, does not have the black backing. And there's different adhesives that we have to use to be able to label and have the label remain on under those storage conditions. The customer usually will do a regulatory review or have us do a regulatory to make sure that all of the information on the label is accurate for each study.
It's very important that we package it in the right type of package to ensure that nothing breaks or cracks when it makes it to our patients. Let's just say this, a bottling operation. We want to be sure that your tablets are not broken in half once you receive them because we didn't use the right size bottle or we didn't use the right type of cotton on the inside in order to ensure that it doesn't break during transit. Necessary information on the packaging is the lot number, expiry date, storage conditions, the API, the dosing, and the language, whether or not it's English or from a different country, whatever type of language. Sometimes the size of our package can impact the shipping cost that goes along with that, so that's also another thing that we need to be aware of when we're making decisions on how we want to package the product and the size of the material that we're using to package your product. occasionally is that our lead times can be a little bit longer based off of tooling that may need to be ordered. So a lot of times we have to take that into consideration when deciding which way that we want to go with the packaging. We can print in many different languages, and then we have quality control that checks that to be able to ship things to different countries. So some of the mandatory things will need to be the expiration date, the dosage, what the product is that you're packaging. We definitely check all of that, even if it's a blinded study or a non-blinded study. There's still certain elements that we need to know before we're able to ship it out. That's just for patient safety, and also to ensure for quality control, check that we're looking at the right things and we're doing the right things.
Drug product is distributed after the labeling and or packaging is complete. Prior to material dispatching, we either need to have a distribution instruction or product profile created, and that's created by a SHARP, logistics specialists or project management, and then signed off by the client. So once those are agreed upon, those are a set of directions that we need to dispatch product by. So some of the differences are just the material and how it's packaged. Is it a vial? Is it a kit? But then there's a difference in material storage. So while we have the same distribution process for all of the materials and all of the storage environments, it's just different as to how we handle it. So for example, material that's stored in a 15 to 25 environment is going to be packaged, processed, shipped, packed in a 15 to 25 environment. If it's 2 to 8, it's going to be stored in a 2 to 8. All of our shipping processes and distribution processes will occur in the 2 to 8 as well. So it just might look geographically different throughout the warehouse, and then same with our -20. So we'll actually go into the -20 freezer, and the material never leaves the environment until it leaves our facility and it's already sealed and packaged up in its environment. So the temperature is maintained. Each of our shippers is validated for either 2 days or 5 days, depending on the size of the shipper. So if we're shipping domestically, it will deliver the following day. If we're shipping internationally, we'll seek out a third-party courier such as Markin or World Courier, and they will provide all of the shipping materials. If it's packaged in-house in one of our shippers that we utilize, depending on the environment, we have pack-out instructions for each size of the shipper. So the pack-out instruction will include how many gel bricks, how much phase change material needs to be in there for the material to remain in its validated state for those 2 days or those 5 days. We have our own shippers that we use, that we seek out from our vendor. And then we also have a handful of customers that have their own shippers that they require us to use. So those are received as a material number stored in our facility, and then they're part of the pick list when we actually generate the pick list in SAP. It's actually a material that's on there that we have to pick as part of the shipment. And then we will pack the material into that shipper based off of, again, the distribution instruction or the product profile. Our shippers are set up on like an automatic delivery basis. So if we have a large amount of shippers already and our shipments are a little lower, we can delay. Vice versa, if we had a lot of shippers that required a certain size, we can speed up the delivery on that. We do use temperature monitoring devices, and those devices are purchased and procured by the storage environment. So we use Sensitech temp tails. We also have clients that procure their own that we keep in inventory for them. The temp tails are placed in each shipper, so you can track the temperature of the shipment. As soon as the temperature monitoring device is activated, we have a 30-minute delay, and then it starts recording temperatures.
IRT will do your randomization, your trial management, and your inventory. Roots comes from the IBRS back in the days, and it just continued to grow and evolve, and now it's really your one-stop shop for subject randomization and trial supply management. An IMS is our solution for the people that don't need a full IRT. So this is often, it's just inventory management. There's no subject related anything in the system. As an example, if you're in the early access program, or you have a lot of investigator-led studies where you still need to supply them, but they don't need the full IRT, or they don't need that randomization component, it's a cheaper, smaller package deal for you to support that. We also see a lot of requests for phase 1s and phase 2s, just so you can keep track of your supply and get orders and inventory out to sites. So inventory management you can actually take care of through an Excel spreadsheet, but also think of having an Excel spreadsheet for 100 sites over 20 countries with 5 depots and trying to keep track of where everything's at. That's a big ask, and IRT simplifies that for you. It also assists you in blinding, so if you have a double or triple or even a single blind study, you can utilize the IRT to maintain that blind. The other thing that the IRT does is it usually has expiry management. So you use that expiry management, it's going to take care of, based on the parameters you set during the life cycle of your study, that it will automatically change out materials that are expiring, so there's no delay in subject allocation or dispensation. So it's really a way to keep on top of your supply chain. For subject randomization, on your supply side for IRT, where it really saves you money is if you have a multi-dispensation visit schedule. The IRT is able to predict your upcoming visits and only sends the supply that you absolutely need for the site. If you don't have an IRT, you kind of have to maintain a balance because you're blinded. So you're just sending 2 of everything or 3 of everything or any multiple because you don't know what you're sending and you don't know what the site needs. So we're able to help in that. The IRT also has a lot of IRTs, not all of them have the ability to configure your supply parameters. So as your study progresses, the end goal at the end is to have no stock at site or have limited stock at site. So if you watch those parameters, you can reduce your levels down. And at the end of the study, there's nothing to return because you used it all. So usually your phase 1s can be handled Excel spreadsheet, phase 1s, because you're usually looking at 1 to 5, 10 subjects at most. Phase 2s are very complex. You usually have the more difficult and complex study builds, the complex randomization or the complex visit schedule that they actually need an IRT to help manage that. And then when you get to your phase 3s and phase 4s, they're usually your simpler study builds. And a lot of people think it goes the other way, and it really doesn't. So the technology is still the same core, and depending on what you elect, we either up it or down it, and away we go. The IRT is where you do your batch releases, is where you do your depot to site shipments. And then historically in the industry, you switch your drug accountability to your EDC system. An EDC system is an electronic data capture system. Think of a Microsoft Access database where you are collecting all of your data. So it's electronic data capture. So back in the day, you used to fill out what we call case report forms. We still have them. Now we call them ECRFs because they're electronic. So the EDC is where you capture all that subject data, all that patient data, all the lab values. So it's used to handling your case report forms. And then you manually return the drug either through the IRT and or through paper. So with our drug accountability module, we do batch release, depot to site shipment, the IRT is assigning it, and then it goes into the drug accountability module where the site users can say, I used it, I didn't use it, it's missing, to whatever level that you need. And then if it's destroyed on site, they mark it, they push it through the destroyed process. If it needs to be returned to a destruction facility, they do that. And in the IRT system, it's all in one place. Whereas historically it's been partially in the IRT, partially in the EDC, partially at the pharmacy management system, and then also at the destruction. So it's a lot of which silo am I going to find my accountability, and where we're offering you one spot. The IRT systems usually have what we call the emergency unblinding module. So if there is an adverse event, sites can go in there, unblind the patient quickly that's currently in the ER or in a traumatic experience, and is this medication going to impact this other drug that they desperately need negatively? So on the patient safety side, that's what we're looking at. On the sponsor side, we are a way that you can maintain your blind. You have all your data, your reports, integration, various subject dispensation allocations, awards, your drug accountability, keeping track of your shipments. So really, IRTs are most beneficial for the sponsor. It's how you manage your randomization. So it's all those things on the high level.
It's critical to ensure that the drug gets to the clinical trial sites.
We take a lot of care in how we package. We want to ensure that the patients are receiving the proper dosing at the right time, because we realize that sometimes this is their last chance, especially with the clinical products.
We can always, always, always configure anything that you need.
We're part of that last leg in connecting all of the pieces together. We're responsible for getting the material from our facility to the patient.
There is a person behind every dosage that we're sending out of here.